Hello. Um, I wanted to make a video about my social problems um, because I just feel like it might help me and might help others to just get it out and tell my story. So, um, I've had social problems most of my adult life. Social weirdnesses. I, when I was younger, the term social anxiety disorder seemed to fit. As I've gotten older, the term autism, I seem to kind of match with that. I feel a bit weird calling myself autistic because I know that there are some people who are properly autistic, like low functioning autistic, and I don't want to take away from their struggle. They need a lot more help than I do. But at the same time, I've always noticed that there's definitely something weird about my social instincts that most normal people don't have. Um, and I want to talk about that. And also, the term selective mutism is a term that I've just come across recently. I think I'd heard about it before, but I never. I think I dismissed it because the term mute. I've never been mute, but apparently there are two layers. There's like low profile and high profile mutism, and I think is it the low profile is you can still talk, but it's just minimal. And it's like that. This term, though, as I'm learning about it, it sounds a lot like me. And I had an experience this weekend where it kind of regressed into it a little bit, and it was just reminded me of a feeling I've had in the past. And um, yeah, so I wanted to talk about my story with it, with my social problems. So when I was a kid, like the first 10 years or so of my life, I actually had a good childhood. Like I've heard some people their autism and stuff starts really young. I don't remember having it unless I was quiet, and I didn't. My mum has stories of me being quiet, but um, I don't remember noticing it as a kid. I remember feeling like I was popular. I don't remember thinking of myself as shy. Um, my first my primary school experience was very good, and this is going to sound arrogant, but the truth is I think I was like a top dog kind of kid. Like I was good academically, good at sports, good at art. I was a teacher's pet, I was a mummy's boy. I was popular. I was like it was. I had a good life, man. It was probably the best years of my life. Those first 10 years, it was just good. Um, Nothing too weird, nothing socially problematic. I don't remember. Um, it was secondary school when I first started noticing weird things happening. I remember this incident where a French teacher just came to talk to me. She pulled me to one side, and she was talking to me, and I suddenly noticed this really intense fear of looking in her eye. I just couldn't look her in the eye, and it was a weird thing, and it was intense enough that I remember it to this day. That I had real struggle looking her in the eye. Um, and there have been other experiences that I've had uh, in secondary school where I started just wanting to be on my own. Um, and for a long time in secondary school, I thought it was just puberty, adolescence. I'd read books about how when you go through puberty, you're going to start wanting to socially withdraw. I thought it was just normal. But then I suddenly realised that all of my peers, they weren't withdrawing anywhere near as much as I was. They were still going to youth parties and youth clubs and house parties and things like this. They were still socialising, but I didn't want to do any of it. I just hated being around people. I wanted to be on my own all the time. Um, yeah, so something was going on, and the reason I say that is because I sometimes wonder, like, is it my fault? Did I do something to deserve this, or do something wrong? That's a real question that nags at me my whole life. Of like, am I like, is this my fault? Am I just like a weak person? Um, and the reason I say that is because like my primary school experience, I was a top dog. I was good at everything. I was a quick learner, and so it's weird to me that this one aspect I would just suddenly be really bad at. Like I was good at everything. Why would I suddenly find eye contact hard and suddenly just want to be on my own all the time? It's a very weird thing. And so I don't think it's my fault. But I still, I say that with a bit of caution because I like to live my life in a way of taking as much responsibility as I can. I don't like to make excuses. Like, I want to just. This is why I've kind of been reluctant to label myself with any. I've never been properly diagnosed, and I don't like to kind of label myself too much because I want to hold myself to the same standard as everybody else. I don't want to excuse myself from duties that that ordinary people have, just because, oh, I'm autistic, so I don't have to do that, even though I bloody do all the time. Like in the sense of, like, if there's any kind of in my family or friends or anything like that where I don't actually have any friends, but with my family, I've got a couple of friends. With my family, if there's like a duty and somebody needs to say something or go and talk to somebody or talk on the phone or something, it's almost a given that I'm not going to be the one that's going to do that. Like I'll step back a bit because I'm not good at that, and I think everybody else understands that. But still, sometimes I do. Sometimes I still do, and I step up. I spoke at my dad's funeral. I don't know why that comes to mind, but sometimes I step up. But but is it my fault? It just come out of nowhere. You know, my social problems have been such a mystery my whole life, and it's weird though because, you know, so I've had a phase as well, because a lot of people talk about fear. Just face your fears. You know, just face your fears. That's all it is. Because you talk to ordinary people sometimes about social problems, and they kind of understand it. Because most ordinary people have a small degree of anxiety sometimes. They go to a job interview, they get a bit nervous, and you have to kind of face your fear. I feel like everybody has a little bit of it, and they probably look inside themselves and they think, well, how did I deal with this? And I just used a little bit of courage and I got over it and it was fine. And it's like, they say things like that. Just face your fears and just use a bit of courage and get over it. But yet for me, I just got this sneaky feeling, strong feeling. It's stronger for me. It's not just a face your fears thing. It's something even more. It's not like it's just a bigger fear either. It's something more profound than that. It's something more complicated. It's like I'm lying to myself. It's like when I try to fit in, and it's like I'm not being myself. These feelings inside me pull me around. I have to stay true to them. It's weird. And the facing your fears thing, I mean, during my 20s, I think I had a whole phase where I started doing that, and I started just going facing my fears and pushing myself and trying to get out there and talk more and all this kind of stuff. And I just don't feel like it actually... It helped in the sense that I learnt, I guess you'd call it masking now. That's a new term I've learnt as well, but I guess I learnt how to just pretend and just say the things I'm supposed to say and get along. But I still didn't like being in the social environment. I just learned how to deal with it, and for people not to notice that I had social problems to that extent. I still didn't want to be there. I still didn't like, you know, so it wasn't as though I just faced my fear and now suddenly I love socializing, yay, and I can just socialize all the time. Although I have had moments, glimmers sometimes where I'm like that. So I don't know, maybe with a lot of work I might be able to get to that, or if it becomes a routine, if socializing becomes a routine sometimes. But then again, generally not though. Generally not. Even when I was work and when I used to go to church, I still just wanted to be on my own most of the time. So it's just a very powerful force inside me that's pulling me to be on my own. So the facing your fears thing, I don't think it actually helped that much. It was like it just pushed my fear to another part of me, like an air pocket in a bubble, when you just push it one and it's just gone to another part of the balloon or something. It's just hasn't actually... It's still there. It's just you've just moved it to another place. I've just suppressed it or something. And in a sense, that's good, because it taught me to function in society a bit more. And maybe this is where, like, again, I'm going to sound cocky, but maybe I was quite talented in a sense, and so I had enough talent to figure out how to function. Like I did a supermarket job for a while, and I worked my way up that ladder quite quick, and they had me on like the kiosk and things like this, and I kind of got the feeling that they thought I was good at it, the job. And I was like, in my head I was like, why do you think I'm good at this crap? I'm bad at it. But maybe I was just good at pretending to be good at it, or I just knew what to say. I don't know. But so what I'm saying is, so maybe I had the talent to mask, and some people who are autistic don't have that, and so it's even harder for them. But still, even despite that, I don't think it's really helped. So my life has been one of like, so in my 20s I did a lot of like facing my fears, and then by the time I got to my 30s I kind of realized that this isn't, I'm just faking my way through life. I'm not. And so I started kind of feeling like I wanted to find my true self. I wanted to be honest to myself, and and so I started kind of being on my own a lot more, like, because that's what I wanted. I just wanted to be on my own, and there's a lot of guilt that comes with that as well, because as you start to kind of follow your true autistic self, if that's the way of saying it, it's very anti-social and very anti-norm. And so I was being by myself a lot, and then feeling guilty and having to kind of overcome a lot of this guilt, kind of having to think to myself, am I actually doing anything wrong here? And so that's been my journey. Let me just get my head right for a second. Sorry, just wanted to remember a few other things I wanted to say. So that was my journey. First 10 years primary school was fine. In secondary school, it all got very, very hard and weird. Then in my 20s, I started trying to face my fears, but it didn't really work. And then in my 30s, I was kind of like trying to find my true self and just leaning into autism and leaning into just wanting to be on my own and just not feeling guilty about it and just being like, this is who I am. That's kind of my path in a nutshell. But I remember back to like some of my early experiences in my teenage. Another one I was having, one of my first, was my family would have these house parties. Family parties, and I used to just hide in my room. I couldn't come out of my room, and I'd get really hungry, and I was really hungry, but I couldn't eat because I was just so scared of going down when there were other people downstairs. And the longer you leave it as well, like the longer you leave it, the worse it's going to be. It's like if you in social situations, if you just come in straight away and you break the ice straight away, it's almost easier if you do that. But if you leave it, the longer you leave it, the more of an entrance. Everyone's going to notice you. Oh, where have you been? And now you have it, and now it's even worse. And like, oh god. And so I would just hide in my room the whole night, and I wouldn't come down for food until everybody had gone and my family had kind of like all gone quiet as well. And then I'd sneak down and grab like some food, like a little squirrel, and squirrel back up to my room. And it was like the fear of talking to people and being in social situations was so big that I didn't care about being rude. And this is hard because it's like, being rude is rude. I knew that I had a kind of social duty, and this is where a lot of guilt comes into it. I knew I had a social duty. I was like supposed to go down and talk, and I have to be a certain way. But it was like the fear was so much that I didn't care. Like it was worth starving myself. It was worth, hiding in my room and dealing with the consequences later, just because it was too hard to deal with. And let me think of another experience I've had. Oh god, I've just remembered a really embarrassing one. But this is probably in my early 20s, in a phase where I was trying to face my fears, trying to get over my social problems. And I actually joined a social worker group. There's this group of social workers who would go round to kids, like teenagers, at night who are hanging out in parks and clubs and fields and stuff, and they would talk to them and try to befriend them and check that they're okay, and just be a presence in young people's lives, and all this kind of stuff. And they would just wander around to these young people hanging out in fields, drinking beer or doing whatever, and they would just talk to them. And that was the whole purpose of it, was like to talk to them and befriend with them. And they would do that, and I'd come along with them for the couple of times, and the kids actually seemed to be quite receptive. I think they maybe even liked their presence. But I found it insanely weird. I barely opened my mouth the whole time. I didn't understand. It was such a weird situation. Like, what are we doing here? They haven't invited us here. We're not their friends. We're talking to them. What do you talk about? Like, I don't know. I'm not gonna be able to explain it properly, but that was very, very weird, and I that was cringe, and I barely opened my mouth the whole time. I didn't know what I was doing. I was real. Then you'd have people saying, the quiet one, or commenting things about this, that you don't talk much, do you, or something like this. And so pointless me being there. So that was me trying to face my fears, but realizing that I'm just not cut out for things like that. So that was pointless. It only lasted about a couple of times. Anyway, so what else did I want to talk about? Sorry, I'm going to keep pausing this because I don't want to bore you with dead air. Yeah, another thing I wanted to say was that the effect that my social difficulties have had on my life, though, I think have been quite profound in the sense that, like, all my life, I will always choose the choice of least social interaction. When I was at uni, whenever we had modules, if there was a module to choose that involved teamwork, I wouldn't choose that one. Even if I had something I really wanted to do and I really loved to do, the teamwork part would always outweigh the fear of, like, the fear of that would outweigh everything else. I'd always just choose, if there was an essay that I could do, or I could just work on my own, I'd just do that. That would do anything that I can do on my own. And I think, when it comes to work and stuff, employment, I worked at a supermarket for a bit, but that was hard. I remember having days where I wanted to quit because that was really hard. But when I did cleaning jobs, that was the best, and I'm still doing cleaning jobs now. I've been doing them for like 15 years because I'm on my own. I'm on my own pretty much the whole time, and so I like it. But any other job that involves, like, almost all jobs involve people, and it's like I feel as though I would rather be poor than talk to people. Like, it's being around people is such a stressful thing. Stressful isn't even like the word. It's like, it's just this weird haze of angst, weird haze of this weird block. I don't even know how to describe it, but I get real weird around people. I don't want to be there, and so yeah, I'd rather be poor than get a job that involves being around people, because that just sounds like hell to me. Like, being around people all day would be too much for me. So it has affected my life, and it's affected things like friendships and romance, because I like being on my own. And I don't know whether I should feel sorry for myself in that sense, like, because maybe people just do what they want, and in a sense, well, I like being on my own, so it's no loss. But sometimes I see the happiness that other people seem to get from certain things in life, and maybe I'm envious of the happiness that they're able to draw out of aspects of life that I can't even draw out of it. Like, I don't know. I don't know whether my like travel or things like this. I've never really had much of an instinct to travel, but I don't know whether that's a socially anxious thing, an autistic thing, or what. But the fact that other people do get so much happiness out of it, it's almost as though everyone's got this. I've had this idea in my head of, like, everybody's got like a I don't know how to call it, like a wire with a plug coming out of their soul, and they can plug it into things, and they get all this joy out of it. And then when I go to plug it into that thing, it's just nothing happens. But then I suppose autistic people have their special interests, and I have different things I can plug. I do actually quite like cleaning. It's not too bad, and there's a lot of people out there who wouldn't like doing a cleaning job. So I'm probably lucky that I do, and I get a lot of joy out of all kinds of other things. I've been working on spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheets, like mad recently, and it's like, I love it, like really love it, and it's like most people probably wouldn't. So I can get joy out of some weird things. But yeah, so I don't know where I'm angling, whether I'm angling to kind of feel sorry for myself or not, but maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. Yeah, so social problems have been a big problem my whole life, though. The selective mute thing is yeah, I'm gonna make another video, because I had an experience this weekend that kind of brought a lot of the selective mutism feelings back. So I want to kind of make a video specifically about that. So maybe I'll do that next. Yeah, I should have probably prepared for this video, because I've probably got a hell of a lot more thoughts and stories that I could have said that I haven't. Maybe I'll do some more videos, separate videos another time. But anyway, that will do for now. Okay, bye.